Any leadership that does not fight for your collective and individual ability to compete, which means equitable and equal representation of jobs, economics, education, housing, law, medical treatment, entertainment, religion, sex, defense, and protection as stated by your crimes, is a leadership that will lead you or keep you in bondage.
Racism is still alive in American. I'm tired of Mark.
Death was better than bondage.
Black men, this is for you. It's not to hurt you, it's not to disrespect you, but yeah, we need to talk. So there's a black man who lives in Thailand, and he's basically promoting and telling black men why they should come live in Thailand, because the women down there are more submissive and respectful. He basically said, well, in a video, he has a beautiful woman in the video. Like I said, I love looking at beautiful people because I love admiring beauty. In a video, he's showing how the woman is very submissive to him. And I have a question for black men. How come every other race of man has this woman in check, but y'all? How come every other race of man has this woman in check, but y'all? How come every other race of man has this woman in check, but y'all? The Asian man, he got his woman in check. Even though white women scream that feminist bull, they know who their leaders are. It's their men. The Arab man, he got his woman in check. But they call black people the minority, and that's not true. But the definition of a minority is a minor. And we all know what we gotta do for a minor. You gotta feed the minor, clothe the minor, keep a roof over the minor's head. You gotta think for the minor. So black men, you claim you wanna be the leaders, but yet you let another race of man think for your people, and you wonder why your women are dysfunctional, why your children are lost. The same people that raped your woman in slavery are the same people that are employing her, writing her checks, and teaching her how to disrespect you. Black men, you got a lot of work to do in your community before you can be thinking about running your ass to Thailand or somewhere else, to another country, trying to be with another race of women. Y'all can't even get your own woman that's a reflection of you to submit to you and respect you. That's an issue. You still stuck on level 1 talking about, well, why the black woman won't be submissive to me? Because you got fucking scared. That's why you scared to put your foot down with her. I don't hear no other race of men arguing with their woman talking about, well, she won't let me lead. That's because they take that shit. They say, go sit your ass down. I'm leading. I'm the captain now, basically.
Yes, I know time is of the essence, so I really just wanted to get to this part and knock it out before the video goes too long. And I just want to make it clear, I do agree with what the female is saying, that we do not have our women in check as compared to other races. But I also want to make it short and make it clear that the women are not in check, not only because the men haven't done what they needed to do or were supposed to do to get them in check. The women are not in check because the women also use the men to allow them to get away with whatever it is that they want to get away with. Tongue twister. This female is jealous that other men are deciding to go to other nationalities, other women, and these females, not just this one, because you've heard of passport bros, you've heard of other men dating outside of the race, and I'm pretty sure many of you have recently heard amongst the dating pool that black females are the least females that people outside of the black community want to date, so they're the least to be dated. What does all of that, what I just said, means? It's jealousy. When they thought that they had the upper hand, they were willing to mistreat you any way you wanted to be treated, any way that they wanted to treat you. That was anyway, legally, HR, not hiring you, getting you fired, calling the police, calling the law, calling their brothers on you. They were willing to mistreat you any way that they wanted to mistreat you because they had the upper hand. So they thought. It is black women that are the ones that are raging the war on black men. And it isn't as much to do with white supremacy racism as it is to do with an old ancient hate. That hate for black men goes way back. Yes, we can point the finger at feminism, and we have to allow them to use feminism, but eventually, like with all things, the truth will come to the light, and eventually one or two or more will admit it ain't white supremacy racism. It's just the fact that they're women and they don't like the system and structure or order of men in general. But since they are tethered to the black community, since they are tethered by DNA to the black race, they don't want to be under the system, leadership, structure, and order of black men, because the system, leadership, structure, and order of black men is going to interfere with their power. The black man is the only one that can control the black female in their entirety. Yes, with life, yes, with the cycle of life, it seems like other men are in control of black women, but other men are only in control of black women because black men allow it. What I'm always explaining to you guys is the key is the men. And because black men do not want to be men, not only are black men socialized to be weaker vessels, not only are black men socialized to be drones, queen bee, black men themselves don't want to fight that white boy. And because they don't want to fight men in general, they are under the mindset it's better to let the female lead. It's better to let the female go to the store and get the groceries. People aren't going to bother her. It's better to let her walk into the convenience store. Why? Because all people give women a pass. You know, women can get into places that men can't. I'm pretty sure many of you have heard that statement. Well, they can get into those places that men can't because of men. They're not going into them places because of self-autonomy or self-power. Men are giving them the pass. What do you think those women are going to do when those men stop giving them a pass? Do you think they're going to warrior king, woman king, and fight their way through? Do you think they're going to Joan of Arc and fight their way through? Or do you think those women are going to be defeated by those men? So I get what the female is saying as far as black men are the only group of men that do not have their women in check. I got what she's saying, and I agree. But the catch-22 of it is if a group of men stand up and check black women for their behavior and their thought process, is that group of female that's being reprimanded, is that group of female going to sit there and accept the correction and then do better? Or are they more likely to use the weaker males to fight the stronger males so that that group of women can continue to do what she wants to do or they wants to do? Understand what I'm saying so you can understand what I'm saying. Everything is hindered on the backs of the male. And the only reason why we've gone this far in life or this particular journey is because of weaker men. Once the stronger men understand their job, their role, they're going to have to come up with a system, an enforcement mechanism that penalizes and punishes weaker men. Well, what is a weaker male? A weaker male is any male that, one, puts pussy above everything else. Number two, a weaker male is a male that does not like or is afraid of or is intimidated by stronger men. Number three, A weaker male is a male that has a bias of any kind towards the female. The only bias that all people are to have towards that female is the fact that she can bear children. That's a 9-month period. And I'm going to extend that to 9 months and 1 year. Once that baby hits 1 year of age, you should pull that child away from that female. Those are my pretty much, and I will probably add on more to it as time goes. I do more studying, because you can only get better. The only difference is, it's like with a favorites list. You don't want to put 1,000 things on your favorites list. What is your favorite rapper? Who's your favorite rapper? You don't want 20 favorites. You want to minimize this so you can get the best optimal outcome of whatever it is that your list is. If that male puts pussy above everything else, weaker male. If that male has a biasness towards that female outside of giving birth or childbearing, that's a weaker male. If that male is afraid, intimidated by other males, simply just by their aura, simply by their chakra, simply by their speech pattern, that is a weaker male. Competition, that's a weaker male. If that male says, I'll move against that other male, whether that other male is strong or not, a stronger male, alpha male, beta male, sigma male, gamma male, no matter the male, if that male decides to move against another male simply so that that male can have access to some pussy, that's a weaker male. If that male wants to drink, wants to get high, wants to smoke, wants to do anything to alleviate any kind of emotional or mental pain, escapism, that's a weaker male. Any male that wants to sit up here, rob, steal, kill, he's a weaker male. Now, it can change because life is going to force you to change, but in the current state, right now as we're speaking, you're a weaker male and you're more detrimental to the tribe. Now, if you're willing to go through therapy, you're willing to go through these classes, if you're willing to go to self-defense classes, if you're willing to go through this gauntlet, if you're willing to go through this forging process in order to come out a stronger male, by all means, sign up. But if you're not willing to change, if you're not willing to do better, and you're comfortable with being whatever it is you're at in that stage of life, weaker male. And the things that need to do, we either need to get them off the chessboard or put them in a position to where they cannot replicate another version of themselves. It is time to play the game hard. All this fairy tale talk that we be talking on these internets, pandering to women, understand my logic. Understand real man logic. You get your shit together. You get your money right. You get your discipline right. You get your devotion right. You get your faithfulness right. You get your determination right. What do you think is going to happen to the environment once you start to control the environment? Don't most people fall in line when power come through? They fight against it, absolutely. But when they realize that power is overwhelming, Dragon Ball Z style, don't you realize they go, what spirit pressure is that? And they go like, okay, well, I didn't realize he was that strong. They're going to realize that your power is greater than theirs. And they're going to acquiesce to whatever it is you got, what you're saying. And what I'm telling you is, I don't disagree with what the female says. In my context, she's still a little bit off because she's biased. And most females are biased. Why? Because they have a vagina. And they learned in elementary school that the male is stronger than them. So they're biased. Naturally, they're biased. Women are your first liars. And once you younger males understand, you have to get on your game. You gotta go get this education, degrees, certificates, trade schools. You have to get your skills because that is your power. Your power is not whether or not you can last in the bed for 1 hour. And when you learn and you do the studies, a man pretty much for the most part ejaculates within a 7-minute time frame. There are men that can hold out longer, but those are exceptions to the rule. Your average Joe Blow is anywhere between 7, I'm going to stretch it between 7 and 10. Your average female can climax within a 20-minute time period. Yes, women that are a little bit more understanding of how their body works, she climaxes a little sooner. Some women deliberately hold it. Not that you're not doing a good job, they deliberately hold it until it builds and it builds and it builds, because for that individual female, it feels better 10 minutes later. But if a female is really on her shit and she understands what time it is, she's going to give you an average 30 minutes. You got to do whatever you got to do within a 30-minute time frame. And at 30 minutes, she get broke off. And at 30 minutes, you get broke off. Even if you climax twice, ejaculate twice. Even if you can do all those things down to a perfect science, what I'm saying to you is your tools is not fight and sex. Your tools are your ability to compete against other men. That's your tools, which is your brain, which is your control of your emotions, which is your discipline, waking up at the same time every morning, going to work. Those are your tools. There's others, but those are your general tools. A man must work. A man must compete against other men in the environment for resources. And what will happen is when you're competing in the environment against other men for resources, the women are going to say, they're going to find their level. Water finds its level. That female that's a 4 is going to say, well, I see what's going on. I can't compete against Vanessa Williams because Vanessa Williams is a blah, 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 and I'm not on her level. I can't compete against a Stacey Dash because Stacey Dash got those green eyes. I can't compete against, what's the chick from Destiny's Child? Not Beyonce, the other one, Kelly Rowland. Because Kelly Rowland got that skin complexion, and a lot of the female is going to find where she can fit in. And once she realizes where she can fit in, she's going to target those men. And once she targets those men, for the most part, she's going to say, this is it. This is it. And she's going to stop. Because now she's able to find her level. But when people are in and the resources have not been acquired and they're not able to find their level, everybody's a scatterbrain. Because they're judging it based on the resources. And resources, for the most part, are judged on how things are presented. It's not an absolute. It's judged on how things are presented. So if you drive around in that Cadillac, Mercedes-Benz, or BMW, in order to acquire the Cadillac, Mercedes-Benz, or BMW, that means you must first acquire a certain amount of economics. You can't come off the lot until you have a certain amount of economics. Once they see that you have that, that's an indicator that you may have more economics than the guy with the Honda. You may have more economics than the guy with the Subaru. You may have more economics than the guy with the Lexus. It's an indicator. It's not an absolute. And then when they're looking at all these guys who are parking lot pimping, who look like they got the money, what it sends a message to them is I can wedge in there. And in reality, since you guys have learned the game and you're peacocking, you actually don't have what the women want. But the women are emotional. So now that they are emotional and they got emotionally connected or emotionally committed, what will happen is even though she knows she should back out, she gives you the grace to try to catch up. So she knows you lying. She's just hoping within due time you bear fruit. And since you male, you're weaker, you're not that way, you're clout chasing, you don't bear the fruit. And what I'm telling you is, if you want a better female, if you want a better female than you currently have access to, if you want a more faithful female than you currently have access to. You're gonna have to listen to what that young lady just said in this video. You're gonna have to modify into your particular lifestyle. You're gonna have to get your act together. You're gonna have to get around other men. You're gonna have to get those lessons that your dad didn't give you. You're gonna have to screen, filter all the women. So you drug screen all the women to make sure they're not batshit crazy, because you can't judge based on their outward appearance. You can't measure intent. You just got to understand her politics. Once you understand her politics and understand those little signals that they throw out, then you'll determine whether or not to invest into her. But black men, we need to get our act together, and there's no way of getting around it. We need to get our act together. We need to get our women in check. We need to get our families in check. We cannot get them in check until we get our economics in check. We don't have anything to barter with. We don't have anything to barter with. And until you get something to barter with, you pretty much out. You're out. It ain't whether or not if you have the most bargaining chips. It brings something to bargain with. Now, again, going back to the jealousy, when these women thought that they had the upper hand, they were not listening to us, and they were not trying to comply. They are now, because again, they lost the gender war. Well, how did they lose the gender war? I'm always going to tell you the numbers. The math is the math. They didn't lose the gender war because all of a sudden black men started getting jobs, started getting more educated. That's not how we won the gender war. Males won the gender war because of the women. Well, what do you mean? There's more women than there are men. And women, females in general, they don't want to work. So if there's a batch of them or a group of them that says, you know what, you were right, enough of this bull crap, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. When those women who are very, very competitive for resources see that they've lost a certain segment of their regimen, they're gonna look at that group detach away from the rest of the. You can call it a herd, you can call it a platoon, you could call it a squad, military terms, you could call it whatever you want. When a certain part of that group detaches away from the main group sees the detachment, and it feels the detachment, and it hears the grumbling and the conversations, the detachment, and before that group continues forward on the attack, it's going to stop. Company, halt, and it's going to ask, well, where did the blah go? Well, we had 20,000. We're now down to 18. Well, 18 and it was only 2,000. And then the captain or the general is going to be like, you know how important 2,000 is? While everybody else is going to be like, well, it's only 2,000. This is 18 of us left. Like, you guys ain't listening. You don't understand war. We need that 2,000. Well, it's so small. It's only 2%. You need 100% of them soldiers on board. If anybody break away in the midst of battle, it could prove catastrophic for the remaining soldiers, because the soldiers that are coming to war has 100% of their soldiers. So if you start war with 100% of your soldiers, and then all of a sudden 2,000 break off, that leaves you less. Well, Sarge, they weren't that strong, they weren't that competent, they weren't that smart. And then Sarge will be like, you're not getting it. We're going to have to retreat. And then as they retreat, even if it's only 2%, 2,000, what will happen is by the time they make it back to base and they start chopping it up with the 2,000 that left, that 2,000 is going to grow into 4,000. And when more communication starts going on, if they don't silence that communication within a reasonable amount of time, that 4,000 going to turn into 12,000. Because once they understand the core premise is if you can get somebody to do the work for you, and all you got to do is watch your tongue, all you got to do is lose weight, All you got to do is be loyal, committed, devoted, and dedicated. No divorce. All you got to do is do that. And this man will do blase, blase, blah. He will carry the world on his back for some cooch. I'll behave. While everybody else is talking about I'm strong and independent and then are stressing out, losing their hair. While every other female is talking about strong and independent on oxycodone and on every other form of antidepressant, those women are sitting and saying, you know what, this 40,000 is fine. Even at 60,000, I was working 80,000 and 90,000, I was working extremely hard. I was completely stressed. I was overweight. I was this, I was that, I was that. And with him going out there doing the work, even at 40,000, when him going out there doing the work at even at 50,000, I can actually just chill. I can relax. And with my whatever it is that I've learned in the last 10 or 20 years working at whatever job that I was working on, I can now actually do certain things, and I can also bring in money on the side to help out with his 40 or 50,000. So you have 2,000 that broke away from the 20,000, and they were able to spread the word of logic with the other females, and now they've grown in number. Their support has grown in number. So they're the ones that actually cause the men to win the gender war. The men did not win the gender war because the men are smarter. The men did not win the gender war because they're stronger. The men did not win the gender war because they're men. The men won the gender war because they're workers. And these men will work because they're workers. Then they won't necessarily work just for the cooch, but they are workers. So let them work. Why we female, speaking in a female context, we relax and we chill and we get off this radar and we stop with all this debt and we stop with all this other yah talk. It's time to come back into the fold. So I understand, little lady. I understand this female that's speaking. However, I need you to understand in its full context, it's out of jealousy. They no longer have the upper hand. Finishing with the video.
And I noticed this as well. I noticed when a black man dates outside his race, he treats that woman that's not a reflection of him better than a woman that is a reflection of him. I noticed when a black woman dates outside her race, she automatically gets submissive to a man that's not a reflection of her. And I don't think real black women realize this. You are looked at the most masculine woman on this earth. So when a man outside your race is dating you and he sees that, oh, she's submissive, she respects me, she lets me lead, I conquered her.
See, she said that black women are looked at as the most masculine women on earth. If a man from another race feels like he's conquered her when she becomes submissive to him, then he can have her. The good black men who have it together are no longer putting any of his energy into trying to make a black woman to get in line with being submissive. Here's a perfect example of why black men are not interested in trying to get black women to fall in line. Do you remember this from a couple of years back? This was a Chinese nail and hair salon where the Chinese man put his hands on a black woman. Well, a black man found out about it, and the next day he went to the shop, went inside, and confronted the Chinese people there. He then went outside and decided to make a lot of noise on social media so that people would know they were going to boycott this Chinese nail salon. He started throwing bricks through the windows and shattering them. The police came and arrested him. The very next day, the Chinese owners did a half-off sale, and black women showed up and got in line. Black men were protesting, and they had signs sitting there telling the women what was going on, and they just completely ignored them. They didn't even care what happened to the black woman the day prior. All they cared about was getting their discount. And look at this one right here. She even went so far as to get belligerent enough that she wanted to fight the guys, telling them she had nothing to do with what happened to the black woman the day prior. And this happens time and time again throughout the United States. Black men that try to help black women are going to have a problem trying to help black women if black women don't even care about each other. As much as I hate to say it, there's going to come a time where black men are not going to come to the aid of black women. And the sad thing is, the black women who do value black men, they're going to suffer too. Because Black men are not going to know the difference of which black woman values us versus the one who don't. Well, this young lady is young, so she doesn't see the whole picture like she thinks she does. I, on the other hand, have been around for a long time. I've watched more and more black women decide to go their own direction, and men like me no longer have the will or the desire to want to help them fall in line. The most men like us do is make videos and put them on social media. For those black women who want to fall in line, cool. But for the ones who don't, they're on their own. I know this young lady has good intention, but I'm afraid it's too late for those particular type of black women. Even if all the black men in the world band together to do right by black women to get them on point, the black women who choose to go their own way will still do it. And there's not a damn thing we black men can do about it, except go to another race of women. And not one of us are going to have any shame doing it.
Right before we left for Ethiopia, there was a video that came out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it was a store named June's Beauty Supply. Now, the Asian business owner ended up punching the black woman in her mouth. She was bleeding. This video went viral, even international in a lot of ways. People saw this. So I want you to hear the woman herself talk about what happened, and I want you to kind of see the aftermath of that punch, because there's another video came out that we really about to go in on.
I'm nervous, but I came in the shop here. I did purchase items, and I had my young son. He's 3 years old, and I paid for my stuff and was attempting to walk out. I hadn't got all the way outside yet, and my son had a little 99-cent keychain that he had picked up, and the owner, he said something to me. I took it from my son and I threw it back in the store. I just threw it down because I was trying to discipline my son at the same time. And so we turned on and walked on out the store. I thought it was all done. And next thing I know, he was just right behind me, and I'm probably about right here. And I'm walking out, and he's behind me saying something in his language. I don't know, but it was aggressive. And so I turned around to say something verbally back to him, and then I went ahead and no, that's not him. And then I went ahead and got up in his face, as y'all can probably see on the video. And then I attempted to walk away. It looks like I hit him, but I didn't. I just turned around and say, I'm walking away. And as I walked away, he grabbed my arm and spent me around. And then he just hit me in my mouth. And
as you can see.
As you can see. And then that was all. And he walked on back in the building. And I sat out there for about an hour. Yeah, shaking his hand, because he obviously hurt his hand. And then I just sat out here and waited on the ambulance and waited on the police. And I went to the hospital, and I got 3 stitches in my lip.
Wow.
And so that's basically what really actually happened. And nothing was ever taken from the store. I never got out the store with anything. And that's just basically what happened.
And he was not arrested.
The police was here. The police came to the scene.
What was their reasoning for not arresting him?
They really haven't gave me a reason. I left in the ambulance, so I never talked to the police while I was here, but the police was here. They did, they acted like they was arresting him because they had him in handcuffs. And, but they didn't arrest him because the police did come to the hospital, and they said that he would have been released in an hour, and so they just didn't do it.
So as you saw, that this guy caused stitches in his sister's mouth when he punched her. Now, many times, and I have said this even on my platform, many others have said this and say, where are the black men? Are they going to stand up? Are they going to say something? Black men is the line of defense for the sisters. It's been said that so many times, right? So you have some brothers that's still out there protesting in the midst of this next video we're going to show you against this Asian beauty supply store. Now, we've seen so many of these beauty supply store videos where the Asian business owners are whipping black women's behinds. They beating them with sticks, they punching them, they kicking them, they throwing acetone in their face, they doing everything they can, they choking them out, all kind of ways they have abused them, and they still go right back. Now, this business owner, even though you know he caused stitches in his sister's mouth, he says, hey, I'm gonna give 50% off of everything in the store. Now, if people had like dignity and self-respect for themselves, it wouldn't matter what he offers. But oh no, we have the same people who are getting beat up in these stores. I want you to watch what happened in this next video.
Yeah, looks like the way they're doing is they're only letting certain people, a certain number of people in the store, and yeah, there's a long line. There's more people. There's more ladies out there looking for the 50% sale than protesters. So basically, we're not outnumbered.
We're not fighting for better roads. We're fighting for hair. Hair. Somebody got my head. We're here for you. Thank you, Queen. We're here for you. We standing for the black woman. We love black people. Look, we don't want you to sock our sisters. That's why we're right. Yep. We stood up. We came to your aid.
Yep. This is counting like 5 protesters, and we're outnumbered. Yeah.
I don't want you to hit a black woman. That's why I'm here. No, we didn't try to take your phone, sister.
Did you not?
Sister, you should not went over there.
Did you not? I walked my ass to the motherfucker. Did you not? She was right over there. He said
you was wrong. You was wrong. You was wrong like Mr. June. You was wrong like Mr. June. You was wrong like Mr. June. Wrong is wrong sometimes.
Obviously, protesters are not credibility.
We saw you walk over there. You did just like Mr. June did. You followed our sister out the sport.
Like I said, yes, did y'all fucking help that bitch?
I helped you.
Nigga, you ain't help shit.
I was helping you.
Fuck you help.
I was helping
Fuck
you.
you help.
I was helping
Fuck did you help.
I was helping you.
Fuck did you help.
Your wallet's over there. Your wallet's over there.
I don't give a fuck.
I know.
My wallet ain't on the ground. Guess what? Right time that shit, my nigga. My wallet is in the car.
Okay.
And I had to leave.
Sister.
Fuck you mean?
Don't even talk back, brother.
We're here for you.
Every dollar we spend.
We're here for
you, sister.
What is you here for?
Here for the sister.
What are you here for?
Because he beats
Y'all
down our
sitting
sister.
here not doing shit. What is you?
Because he beats down our sister.
They're not allowed though. What is you here for? What is you here for? Not shit. Nothing. I guess y'all gonna do that shit. Y'all ain't doing shit. Fuck you mean? Fuck you mean?
So again, I try to get the receipts. So I did go online, and I'm not going to tell you that the clip that I am going to present to you is the exact example of what the gentleman is speaking about as far as black men stepping up and then black women turn right back around and basically diminish your attempt to intervene and protect you. So I'm not saying that my evidence is his evidence. I'm not saying that they're the same exact video. What I am saying is I found a video that also highlights what this man is saying. When black men do step up to try to protect black women are actually turning around and diminishing it. So even if they're not on camera, they're also in the boardroom. They're also in human resources. They're also in the governor's office. They're somewhere undoing what we are trying to do to prevent them and protect our community. So I'm not just saying whatever it is that just sounds good for a bunch of people that have a grievance with black women. My examples are, you have to be doing things for yourself. You are the primary. You are the first. Anybody that runs around here and does things for the acquisition or acquirement of vagina, that is a weaker male. Stronger men do it for the principle. It's the right thing to do. Everything else falls in line. So I'm going to show you this video, and at this point, Look at the screen. Look at your screen so you can get an understanding visually and audibly how things are working in the real life. Not this Hotep, Queen Mother Goddess, Black woman is God, or the black woman can do no wrong talk. Look at the video. So if you can get past the wind noise, you can see the day prior or whatever time that the intervals are. A sister gets attacked. The next day, to make amends to the community, the store owner offers 50% off on all purchases. Got that? So that's like a public apology. Even though the store owner may not use those words, I apologize. The behavioral pattern is to say to the public that they recognize the error of their ways, and since they're trying to make amends to the public or to that individual, this is what they're going to do. 50% off all hair products or select hair products, whatever it is. It's to show them that they have some form of remorse. It's to show the public that they have some form of remorse, so you don't bash them or not become a patron of their business. When we tell you what is really going on, you tell us it's a land of make-believe. That ain't it. So that term would be gaslighting. And I try to give you guys the words the same way I'm giving you a video that exemplifies a statement that was earlier made. The female says that the men don't have their women in check. Then the men says these are the reasons why we don't have you guys in check. The problem with both statements, it really isn't an absolute as most people want it to be. The problem with most statements, with this particular statement, is there's something is protecting the women. So even though the women are out of pocket and a group of men are saying, well, we want to protect you, but every time we do this, you don't change your behavior. Well, the women aren't changing their behavior because they're being protected by a certain group. And I'm explaining to you guys, the group that's protecting them first are your Pookies and Ray Rays, your mama's boys, your Queen Mother Goddess, your Hotepers, your Egyptologists. Those are your first group of males that are protecting them. And when these women have a protection system that says, for the most part, they're off limits, anything that has any form of favoritism by default will live within that favoritism. So they're less likely to do the right thing because it's the right thing, because they don't have to. And if Pookie and Ray Ray mama's boys, Hotepers, Queen Mother Goddess, Maya mother is the mother, the black woman is God, mother of all creation, don't protect them, they can always fall back on second, her orbiters. Her orbiters are men or women that want to sleep with her. Usually it's the men. Number 3, then she'll call the law on you. So until stronger men actually come up with a system that actually penalizes and punishes weaker men, you can't do much, because that's who's protecting them. The law comes in last. The last line of defense is the sisterhood. The sisterhood is not first, they're last. The absolute first ones are their sons, mama's boys, are their brothers, Pookies and Ray Rays, are their fathers, Pookies and Ray Rays, are their orbiters, males that want to have sex with them. Don't want them, just want to have sex with them. As I always say, you guys have to pay attention to people's talking points, behavioral patterns, regardless of the words. And I gave you guys the synonyms, homophones, antonyms. I gave you guys the euphemisms. I gave you guys the 20 diversion tactics. And I'm explaining this is how people communicate throughout life. They are hiding behind a bunch of lies. And you can't free your people. You can't get your people to vote in the best interest of future generations. Is not because of the logic. It's not because of the evidence. It's not because of the truth. You can't get them to move forward because they're quite content where they're at. They just know not to tell you, I don't want to. They know not to tell you, I don't want to, because they are aware of some form of backlash. And since they're trying to avoid that particular backlash, they're going to tell you, well, it sounds good and all, but tell me how you do it. I like what you're saying, but you got any suggestions of how we can do it? If only I knew this when I was your age, man, I would be ahead of the game. They've learned how to lie to your ass in your face. And I'm telling you, once you get to a certain level and you are in that environment, learn to ask the right questions. And the questions vary because people are in different environments. It's not a standard. It's an ideal. It's a concept. Once you think that you have a suspected coward, once you think that you are around a suspected mama's boy, you need to ask specific questions in order to determine where this mug's allegiance is. Before you're in the wit set, before you're in the interrogation room, you need to find all that out before you cast your pearls to swine. Warrior class, Zoo, rise up. Warrior class, Zoo, show up. Warrior class, Zoo, speak up. Warrior class, Zoo, smoke them out.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
In this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
Fair Use Act disclaimer. This site is for educational purposes only. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowances made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research.